So today, the topic that we are covering is going to be fitness and nutrition. And we are going to have John join us very soon. He is, okay, let's see, fairly new at this as well, the Instagram live thing. So I'm getting a handle on it and I'm super excited. Let's see. Hey John,
What's
how
up?
are
Hey,
you?
good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited.
So everybody who is joining or who will see this video, this is John. He can maybe introduce himself a little bit more. He's a certified personal trainer through NASM, right?
Yep.
And also a massage therapist. When I was reading that, I was like, what a winning combo.
Yeah, it works great. I love it. It's I just became a massage therapist about like a year and a half ago, and I've been doing the training for like almost 6 years now. So it's been a good little journey for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love
Yeah.
what you sent about your goal of helping people be the best version of themselves.
Yes, exactly. That's my biggest goal. I mean, I deal with so many different people on a big range, from young kids to, an older population, and it gets tough, but I just like helping every single person I can, so it's good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
following you for a while now, and you can just tell that, your approach is you work with so many different types of people, and you seem to have a very balanced view on fitness, and your videos are very inspirational. I was watching some
Thank you.
like tire flipping videos
Oh,
and
there you go. Yeah, that was back in the day. Back in the day.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's great. So I'm excited to have you on.
Yeah, me
Is
too.
there anything
Yeah.
else you want to add to that bio or anything you want to tell people before we kind of kick it
Um,
off?
Pretty much just excited to kind of pair the nutrition talk with the exercise. I mean, so many of my people who I try to kind of tell to join today or watch later when we post, so many people struggle with pairing nutrition and the exercise together, especially based on their goals. So I feel like this would be a good combo, like an expert for yourself. Like I've been following you as well. You seem to know a ton, which is
Thank
awesome.
you.
So I feel like they can get a lot of good value from this conversation. So I think it'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find, because I hear this a lot, is people will come in and they'll either say, I've got the nutrition part down, but the fitness is what I'm struggling with. Do you hear kind of the opposite side of things a lot?
I kind of usually hear the opposite. It's very rare I get, I have the nutrition down, but usually it's, people want to, they struggle with both, but I never get, so much of the other way. So it's tough. So I feel like this will be a good way to get people to find a good mix. So,
Yeah. All right,
yeah.
cool. So let's just start off with the first question.
Yeah.
I get this question all the time, so I'm really curious to hear your view on things. And I follow some, more research sciencey people, and I've
Yes.
kind of seen this maybe debunked a little bit. But
Hmm.
so the question is, can you lose weight and build muscle at the same time?
Yeah, so I get that a ton, and it's so hard because there's so many, it's such a general question based on who you're dealing with, so you have
Mm,
to kind of look at it by base person. So, for someone who's going to be, overweight, who needs to lose, say 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, right? They might not be so concerned with gaining muscle, so I always feel like it's the people who, especially women, because they struggle with finding a balance with gaining muscle and losing weight,
mm,
but someone who's trying to lose that 5, 10, 15 pounds, but they also want to tone up and build muscle, right? They want that to look lean and nice and all those nice back muscles or leg muscles, whatever it is. So I 100% think it is possible. You just have to pair it, which is going to be great, the nutrition and the exercise with it. But so many people struggle with that, and they look at the scale a lot, and I tell them to look at body fat percentage, and
mm.
myself, I don't do it a lot on many of my clients, but if you look at your body fat percentages as opposed to just looking at the scale, or did I lose the 5 pounds I wanted, did I not? Because it's just going to translate, especially if you're only losing, if you want to lose 5, 10 pounds, that muscle gain is going to balance it out, and you might not see a drop in the scale. But
Mm.
if you looked at your body fat percentage, you may see a decrease in that. So I feel like that's absolutely correct. So
That's a really
yeah.
good point. And I think,
Yeah.
as a dietitian who really, focuses on other measurements of progress, I think, we really need to move away from the scale. And it sounds like you have that message as well. And
Exactly.
it's literally only telling us, a force of gravity on Earth.
Yeah.
And that's not giving us much information. And as different types of body mass produce different types of reactions in the body. So fat mass versus muscle mass, and that's going to impact your basal metabolic rate and all that. So I think
Yes.
that's a really good point, is that using the scale as a measurement is not usually a successful way to measure progress.
Yeah.
And it's important to look at the overall big picture of actually what's happening. It sounds like with what you're doing in terms of training is obviously important, and you need to have a structured plan. And, for someone who's, never done any sort of physical activity, working with a professional like yourself is probably the best way to go. Even if you're just getting started, maybe at least having like an intro with someone so they can kind of walk you through the basics.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're 100% right. And like you touched on just now, like you said, it's so many people struggle with programming and doing, the right exercises and the right reps and the right sets. And the biggest thing of all, I think, is rest periods. So, I mean, we're getting into a little bit more, but like I said, I see it with so many women who they come in and they're so used to just going fast. Like, and nothing against like moving fast. That's great. And you're going to get a great workout. But a lot of people are used to like these orange theories, these soul cycles, and that's great. I do them myself and I get my ass kicked, but sometimes if you're trying to build some muscle, you got to take your rest periods between your sets and your reps, and doing a structured program can help without just going to the gym and doing, 100 reps of 100 squats, whatever it is. A structured program can help tremendously. Yeah.
I think I know we didn't have this necessarily. Well, I guess this will kind of transition into other topic we were going to talk about. And I think this especially pertains to females. And I know I definitely felt this way when I was first starting my fitness journey. And that was the idea that weights would make you bulky.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I used to do the fitness classes. Like my mom and we were like totally like this when I lived at home. And so we'd go to the
Okay.
Y and we'd do, kickboxing classes, and we'd
Nice.
do those
Nice.
like
Okay.
cardio classes, but I never
Hmm.
really, I was always I was a soccer player, basketball player. And so we got into the weight room a little bit, but I had this idea that cardio meant lean and that's how you burn the most calories.
Yeah.
And, you can probably talk more about this as well, is just that, lifting is so important. And, I talk to females about hormone balance and that stress hormone cortisol. But I mean, do
Hmm.
you see this a lot with especially females, of them kind of falling more towards the cardio side of things? And what could you speak to in terms of, I mean, your clients obviously show the results, but the benefits of weightlifting?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's so funny we're talking about this because literally I just had a new client come to me maybe like 3 weeks ago, and she's so used to that high pace stuff, and she loves the cardio stuff, and she always says, I feel like I get a great workout out of that. I'm like, yes, you do.
Hmm.
But your goal, she wants to get her legs a little bigger, a little more toned on her back or her arms. And we started slowing things down in the gym when she came with me, and she started realizing, I feel soreness in different places. She's not just feeling like she's exhausted from a long, like a 30, 45 minute, cardio class or something, like a kickboxing class, even though it's all great. But weightlifting, and like we're going back to the bulkiness thing, so many people ask me when they come in, like, I don't want to be bulky. I don't want to be bulky. And yes, I'm not going to turn you into bulky, but doing the exercises correctly is a huge thing. So bulky, when I hear from girls, is not really lower body. I feel like it's more like their upper body they're so nervous about, like their
Hmm.
shoulders and their traps. So if you're doing a ton of back exercises, say you're doing an upper body day, and I see it even in the classes in the gym that we do that I work out of, the girls always hate doing upper body day, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I get it. You don't want anything to get too big,
Hmm.
and you don't have to go super light and do, like I said before, just high reps. You can
Right.
stay a little heavier, but as long as you're not getting into your traps and pulling this way and pushing that way, you're not going to gain that size and those muscles that you're not looking for. So,
Yeah.
you have to kind of pair a good program with doing the exercises properly, and you will not be, getting too bulky. And obviously, you can speak on it with the nutrition wise. If your nutrition's off, you might get a little bulky. You might be gaining some weight because you're not eating right, but I'm sure you could touch on that.
Yeah,
But
that's a great point. And I
yeah,
tell people that all the time. I'm not the fitness expert, but they'll say, I don't, my trainer's having me lift weights. Should I tell them that I don't want to lift weights anymore? I said, no, no, like keep lifting weights is beneficial. But from the nutrition perspective, you're not eating, 5,000 calories a day. So,
yeah,
that weight is not going to be put on. And like you said, it's usually as fat, is that you start to gain a little bit more fat or just weight in general. And people
mhm,
think that's a result of the weightlifting itself, whereas it's not the weightlifting itself, it's just the excess of calories.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so, I mean, this is something that I always touch on with clients is they really focus on that calorie burn. And so,
Mhm.
you know, from a perspective, they'll say, well, I have to work out and burn the calories so that I can eat this or that or this.
Yes.
And so I think we could talk about a little bit the benefits of, like, from a metabolism perspective of when you lift weights and when you're eating properly, you're actually burning more calories throughout the day if you have a body composition that has more muscle on it.
Got it. Yeah. And I tell people all the time too, even when they're doing, like, so many people have the Apple Watches and the Whoop now is a big one, and the
Hmm.
Fitbits and tracking their calorie loss. And you'd be so surprised about how much you're really burning when you're doing a weightlifting. Like if you're doing, say, any exercise, say a lunge, right? And you're putting your body under a lot of stress, you'd be surprised how much that heart rate is pumping. You're keeping
Mm.
time under tension on your muscle. You'd be surprised how many calories you really do burn in a weightlifting session, as opposed to just going 100 miles an hour on a spin bike or on a treadmill or whatever it is. So I feel like people don't realize, they think they're not going to sweat, they're not going to, get their heart rate up, but you will, and you're going to be exhausted in many different ways. So I feel like that's huge. So I feel like that can be a big change for people if they really did try it out. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a really good point. And so I guess on top of that, would you like, is there a recommendation that you could give? I don't know if it's based on, you know, like the ACSM like guidelines or whatever, but in terms of your personal experience and how you've seen success with clients, let's just say for a female who's, you know, in decent shape but really hasn't like experimented with weightlifting and is thinking about going into weightlifting, what would be your recommendation for about how many times a week, like, should they be going in the gym and having that type of exercise that you said where they're having good rest time between sets, they're definitely challenging themselves, maybe progressive overload. Like, can you speak more to
Yeah,
what that might look like?
absolutely. And it's someone who's a beginner, it can be very difficult, especially if you're not doing the exercises properly, or if you're nervous, if you're not working them right, if you're not working the right muscle group, or you're not feeling what you should be feeling. So obviously I always recommend, like, if you have someone as a friend who really knows, if you can't do personal training, like, go with someone who can, make sure you're feeling the right things, doing the right things. Or if you can
Mm,
do a personal trainer, get someone who's a professional who can help you out. But I think anywhere from like 3 to 4 days in the beginning, if you can find, even online, there's so many people with like strength and conditioning programs. I
mm,
would look into a strength and conditioning program
okay.
where beginners can reach out, and most of these have like videos and different things like that where they can look at and say, okay, I'm doing the exercise right. And you can program it yourself. Some of them are custom. I would stay away from those cookie cutter programs where
Mm,
they just send you a PDF and that's it, and it's just like the same thing for everybody. It's not going to be the same thing for you. Look for someone who's going to get you a custom program, who
mm.
can build it out and say you want to just do 3 days a week or 4 days a week. Then I think that will put them in a better position. But it always goes back to just doing the things properly. So if you can find someone who can help you out, reach out to them, and or even online, like I said, someone who can give you a custom program, who maybe meets with you or calls you once a week to make sure you're checking in and things like that. I feel like that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good point to touch on as well is, you know, there are so many different, and the same goes with nutrition, is there's all these programs out there and you always wonder, okay, how do I find one that's credible?
I'm sure
And
you probably deal with that all the time. Yeah.
oh my gosh. And a lot of the time too, which I'm sure you see this with clients, is when they get those cookie cutter plans, I get clients coming to me and they're eating white rice, broccoli, and chicken for every single meal, and then they're
Yeah.
drinking like a protein shake in between these meals,
Oh man.
and it's like it's awful. And some of them I've even seen are incredibly detrimental, especially for female health. Like the fats can get down to as low as like 30 grams a day.
Mhm.
And you know they're seeing all kinds of issues with their cortisol levels and their
Oh my
sleep,
gosh.
and it's awful.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point is, you know, anybody that's watching this, just make sure that, you know, the program that you're getting, if you see something that is cookie cutter and it's telling you to eat something like chicken, broccoli, and rice every day, and, you know, it seems like the calories are really low. I mean, if you're in a weight loss phase, right, and you're trying to, you know, maybe lean a little bit, like lean out a little bit, then you know, of course, you might start to feel hungry on a sort of eating style plan.
Mhm.
There's definitely a question of that, but if there's a plan where it seems like you're eating like a bland diet, you're really starving and the food is not doesn't have variety and it's not tailored to you specifically in terms of, your preferences, your height, your weight, your activity level, then that's probably a good red flag, right? That somebody
Yeah.
should not be following that plan.
100%. That's a huge point. Like I see it so much, especially in the fitness industry. There's so many cookie cutter programs out there, and it's hard to pick the right one for yourself. So you can really do your research, like you touched on, like find out who you're working with and see if they're actually going to be in touch with you, and if it's a custom program, that's what you want. Stay away from the things like, especially the nutrition wise. I can't even imagine. I mean, I've seen it all the time. People show me plans that they follow, and I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a registered dietitian, but I can at least help some people out and lead them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Which is, I love that we're building a little something here, so now I could maybe recommend people to you, and I think that would be awesome. But yeah, stay away from the cookie cutter stuff as best you can.
Yeah. Now, do you
Yeah.
offer online plans? I didn't even ask.
I do. It's hard because I'm so busy in the gym, and I want to get more into that. Especially down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see myself doing the one-on-one training my entire life. I have other plans as well, but I'm going to start building that in. So, but I can recommend, if people are interested. I can recommend to plenty of people that I know that give out great programs that are custom.
Okay.
So if people do have questions, they can reach out and ask me. Yeah.
That's super helpful. And at the end, I'll
Yeah.
make sure to get all your contact for people so that they know how to get to your page and everything.
Yeah,
That's
same with
that's
you, because people have nutrition questions all the time for me, and I'm like, it gets overwhelming sometimes, and it gets down to little meticulous things that I feel like you can help them way more than someone like me. So I think this could be great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
what are some, do you ever get nutrition questions off the bat that you see are like really common, or do you see anybody using like supplements a lot of the time or relying more on one thing?
Yeah, I mean, I do get the supplement thing a lot more with guys, I guess. They're
Mm-hmm.
always asking me about proteins and things like that, and it's hard for me to even recommend things. I try not to, because there's so many like things that come out all the time, whether it's a protein, now this protein's not good, or
Mm-hmm.
whey or veggie protein or vegan protein, pea protein, and sometimes it's hard for me to keep up with things, so I try to keep up as best I can. So I try to stay away from recommending things as best I can, just trying to keep people on a whole food type diet, and I feel like they see the best results that way. Unless they are seeing someone like you, like a professional, then they have that set up. But biggest questions that they give me nutrition wise is, what they should eat before their workout, after their workout. I feel like maybe you can touch on something like that. Like
Yeah.
best things that they should, if you could give people some of that information. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because when you went to go answer a question, you mentioned how it is so individualized. People hate how I always start my responses with, well, it depends. And
Yes. Yeah.
and that's usually a good sign. You don't want any professional, especially in the wellness field, saying, "Oh, this is the way to do it and this is the only way," because that's not how humans
Yeah.
work, right? We're absolutely not static
No,
beings, and to say that there's a one size fits all is it's just wrong.
it's
But
absolutely
in
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, but in general, for like a pre-workout, your main source of energy is going to be coming from carbohydrates. Having some amino
Hmm.
acids, aka protein, in your blood is beneficial. So I always say, try to get some protein and carb, get that. So an example
Hmm.
could be like eggs and oatmeal, or toast with eggs, Greek yogurt with some, granola in there, or a piece of fruit. I try to keep the fats low for my recommendations, just for the
Hmm.
fact that if somebody is, if especially if someone's doing more of an endurance style workout and you're kind of, maybe like an hour out from that workout, the speed of digestion is important. And
Okay.
as we know, fat is slowly digested, which is why it keeps us full and can be a really good thing in most cases. But keeping the fat intake not really high, that it's not the biggest component of that meal, that would
Gotcha.
be my pre-workout recommendation.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Post-workout, I think a lot of people, we always talk about that. There was this myth about the window, the 45-minute window that you
Yes.
had,
Yes.
and that was leading to those people, they've got their shaker bottles and they're like,
Hmm.
45 minutes, I gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to get that
So
protein shake in.
post-workout, yeah, exactly. So we've kind of debunked that with science,
Sorry, I
actually, which
can't.
has
There
been
you go.
great. Were you cutting out a little bit? Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
Go
we've
ahead. Yeah, I got
debunked
you.
that with So we've debunked the myth with the 45-minute window. So the biggest thing, and I always say this to clients, is, well, as soon as you eat something, the quicker you start to recover, right? But there's absolutely, it doesn't get to 45 minutes and then all your gains are lost, or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it.
Yep.
So the key is to really, so if you've now depleted your glycogen, which is your carbohydrate stores, then getting some more carbohydrates in there, that's also going to stimulate muscle growth. And then protein, because you've now broken down muscle and you want to rebuild that. So
Yeah.
the pre and post workout options are pretty similar in the sense where, again, that fat is, and I'm saying not heavy in fat, as in you're not eating, a giant filet mignon with, slabs of butter on top of it.
Yes.
Something that's going to be delivered quickly. And so when you take a large amount of fat out of that meal, it's able to be utilized a little bit quicker. And there's this big vegan vegetarian movement after the Netflix documentary came out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been seeing this a
I
lot at
have.
all.
I have watched. I've watched them. Yeah. Yeah. The Game Changers
Okay.
one, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to talk about protein quality too. So when we talk
Okay.
about protein before or after, the quality of the protein is really important. And when we look at a plant-based source of protein, it's not as, I guess, beneficial in the sense of an animal-based protein. So an animal-based protein is going to be digested much better and utilized than compared to a plant-based protein. And I'm not saying that, if you choose to eat vegan or vegetarian or plant-based, then you can't see the results that you want to see. But we need to understand that your protein needs are likely going to be higher, and you're likely going to have to supplement. If you are someone who is working out a lot or you're an athlete, then you're likely going to have to supplement with things like protein powders. If you're really worried about it, things like your explosion or power in some sort of workouts, then looking at a creatine supplement, things like that. So it's
Yeah.
really important that if you are following a plant-based diet, it's almost even more crucial that you are working with a professional, or even just have, some advice from a professional to understand the comparison between the different types of proteins and the nutrients that you could be missing. One of the things that they didn't show during the Game Changers, documentary, which I don't even like to call it that, it was really more of a film, but because
Gotcha. Yeah.
documentary has pros and cons, where they were very biased. And one thing they didn't show was that one of the top athletes, his typical day was filled with lots of supplements. He was doing pea protein shakes, he was doing creatine, he was doing, he had a bulk line of supplements behind him. And so knowing that, and then also knowing that a lot of these plant proteins have very high levels of contaminated heavy metals and things in them, then we now get into the risk of, you think you're doing something good and supplementing, when in reality, a lot of these are a concern when we're consuming them in large amounts.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with what you said with the heavy metals and the proteins and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So many. I saw you. I believe you posted it a little
Yeah.
while ago. Different proteins and stuff, and people ask me all the time, and it's hard to kind of say which ones are good to use. So if you did have recommendations, and it was a pea protein you were I feel like you're kind of on, right? Is that
The
right or
hemp,
no?
the hemp one
The
is my
hemp.
favorite. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I got you. Okay, hemp,
Yeah.
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 So that's good to know. People ask me all the time, and it's like, I try to steer people away from whey, and then it was more, I was on the veggie kick for a little bit, and now I'm nervous about all the metals that are in the veggie protein. So now it's crazy. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, the wheys, the whey proteins now are some of the lowest in terms of the contamination levels.
Okay.
And I don't just like know this off of the top of my head. I subscribe to Consumer Labs, which is a really great resource. They basically test different products, and they come out with the report of whether these companies had the allotted amounts of what is allowed in a supplement. And
Okay.
that's kind of where I gather the information from, so that I can advise clients on it. But what I love that you said is, really sticking towards more of a whole food based diet. And
Yeah.
people get frustrated and they're like, I don't know what to eat anymore. Everything's bad for you. And
Oh,
it's awful. It's very frustrating, and I can sympathize, because, I even sometimes am feeling that way. But the reality of it is when you take out, a lot of these processed foods, and we're not talking like elimination. We're not saying you can never eat an Oreo or, have a protein shake, but when the foundation of your diet is built on whole foods, then we can take a lot of this guesswork and concern about, all of these different, things that we see in the media, and have a little bit more peace of mind knowing that it's all about balance.
Yes, and yeah, I love that, and I tell people that all the time because people joke with me all the time if I have a cookie or if I have a donut or a pizza, whatever it is. I'm like, yes, but you have to have some balance in your life. And some of the fittest people in the world that I follow and that I've seen, they do the same thing. Everybody has to have a balance, but when you're working towards your goal, have that whole food-based diet, and I feel like if you can maintain that and get away from the processed junk that has all these additives and extra things like you touch on all the time and all these gums and colors, and that stuff makes you feel like crap. So then when
Yeah.
people come to the gym, they're like, oh, I wonder why I have an off day. Okay, what did you put in your body the day before? And all of a sudden it turns into 3 different things that were out of a package that had all these extra crap in them. And then that's why you don't feel good. That's why you don't have that energy, and you don't have that base that you need to actually put a good hour workout in, and I feel like the whole foods thing is huge. And I used to tell people all the time a good way, and I tell people about the Whole30, and I didn't like the whole base of it because it was hard for people to do the 30 days, and then I feel like so many people would just go nuts after the 30 days were over, right? So I felt like it's just a good way, though, to help people understand how to eat and how to cook and how to look at labels and read nutrition facts and see what's really in the product and the ingredients, seeing how much sugar's in something, something like bacon or anything you might not think might not have sugar. Just learning how to read labels, I think, is huge. But yeah, I think we touched on that pretty good. So many people struggle with little things like that and focus on, like you said, all these little supplements as opposed to just having a good balanced diet, and then you can enjoy yourself when you want to, so it's hard.
Yeah, I think, there's also the opposite end of the spectrum. I have clients who come to me all the time, and they're doing too much of an unprocessed diet, and they're restricting too much, and some of that may have stemmed from doing something like a Whole30 diet. And
Gotcha.
we need to remember that the point of some of these things is just to create awareness, but not to get to a point where you're constantly thinking about food, you're feeling like you're restricted, or everything is down to the T when it comes to macronutrients. Or we need to remember that having a healthy relationship with food is more important, if not equally as important, as what it is that you're putting in your body. So yes, we all have essential nutrients we need to meet. We can't be low in vitamin D and all these other iron, things like that, and live a great quality life. We're gonna suffer health wise, but we also need to remember that which you just said is it's balance, and finding that is really important. So it's both ends of the spectrum, and so yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I think we kind of nailed that on the head pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making with their fitness goals?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like we went over a lot of stuff already because like it all kind of relates, but the biggest stuff is obviously nutrition, and I feel like that's huge, obviously, but people can't mix the both properly. It's usually that's one or the other. But again, going back to just figure out what your exact goal is. So I love to sit down with people for a half hour before or an hour before we even start a training session, if it's a new client, honing in on what your exact goal is, and then seeing where you're at and being honest. Like if you don't think you can lose, if I look at you and I'm saying, okay, well, there's no way you're going to lose 10 pounds, you're very skinny, or if it's the other way around, look at your goal and set a realistic goal and then go from there. And then we build our program based on that and then sticking to it. I feel like so many people don't understand what their goal is and they don't understand how to get there. So whether it's, picking the right program or doing the right group class that works for you, it's trying to figure out what your goal is and doing the right exercises towards it, or the right program is the best way to do it. And so many people struggle with that because they just think, let me just get in there and go and I'll figure it out on my own. No, find a program that works for you. Make sure you're doing it properly. And I feel like then you can get your goal down packed, so people do struggle with that. Yeah.
And I can relate too, because I like I said, I'm not the fitness expert here, and I've tried so many different things. I've tried mostly cardio, I've tried mostly weightlifting, and And I feel like I found a good balance, but I always remember when I would start something, I would not see results and I'd get frustrated and I'd think, okay, well, this must just not be working for me. But
Yeah.
it was the consistency and how had I, actually stuck with it and just kind of, been uncomfortable maybe for a little while or pushed a little harder or maybe even backed off a little more, then I probably would have seen those results at the time, but I didn't really, I mean, I didn't comprehend that, right? Because we live in a world where it's, we want results now, we want them fast and
Yes. Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
that's very hard. And you touched on it exactly right. Consistency is the word. Like, that is it. If you can be consistent with a program, trust it. Go for it for 3 months, 4 months, and see what results you're going to get. So many people come to me and they're like, hey, listen, I want to come to you one day a week and I want to look like this in a month, or I want to, and the whole Super Bowl got everybody crazy about J-Lo and Shakira and everybody, how do
yeah,
they look like that at 54 or whatever their ages are?
yeah.
And I'm like, you have to be so consistent. So find something that you think is going to work for you.
Mm,
Put the time and work and be consistent with it. If you can pair it with nutrition, great. You'll see your results 10 times faster. So I
mm,
always tell people, try to pair your nutrition with it and it's going to go great. Your results will fly. But if you kind of back off on one or the other, you're not consistent with both, you're going to struggle and you're not going to see your results fast as you want, which is always over exaggerated, but give it some time, stick with it, and I feel like you can see those results pretty good. Yeah.
yeah. I agree. I think the nutrition part of it too, like you said, it's, find that balance and find something that's realistic because if you're trying to jump into like a black and white mentality moving into those goals, I feel that you're not creating something sustainable long term. And so while you might get a quick fix just doing a diet or just doing an exercise plan, if you can find a balance, I feel like you allow for more flexibility and your health is just optimized in general because you're getting benefits from movement and blood flow and mental health, but then from the nutrition standpoint, you're also finding that you can have certain foods and feel energized and feel fueled. And so finding that balance and pairing them together, I think is so important and not having this. And I'm guilty of this myself, not having that all or nothing mentality, which
Yeah.
it can be really, really hard.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, I love food. I'm a big foodie, and you probably see from my Instagram, I love going out to eat. I love making a good steak once in a while, like it's hard for me to kind of find a good balance sometimes. But, what I do is, which is a good way for other people to kind of get into a groove, set yourself up, like look on the calendar, like, okay, I don't have like a wedding coming up or I don't have anything crazy coming up. Let me get these next 3 weeks and just be super consistent,
Mm,
and then I could treat myself or, let me do great Monday through, Sunday afternoon and have like a good meal Sunday night or whatever it is. Like try and find a good balance where you're not going crazy, but find some time that I feel like works with your schedule where you don't have too many things coming up and you could kind of balance that out pretty well. So
yeah, I
it's
do
tough.
see a lot of people, they seem to start things when there's a lot of chaos going on. And I think
Yes.
people kind of, and they freak out. They're, maybe it's the holidays or this or that. And they kind of go into panic mode and they say, okay, I got to get things down and going. And it's like, well, is that realistic for you to be meal prepping 7 days a week and working out every day? If, you've got a new job, you're moving and,
Yeah.
realistic, set yourself
Yeah.
up on the times when you're not, I think doing anything fitness or nutrition related out of a desperate moment or desperation in general is never usually a good plan.
Yeah, it usually kind of ends up burying itself. Like it gets super hard for people, and then they get even more discouraged when they screw up for a few days and they don't come back, and then they don't do the nutrition part of it. It can get very frustrating, and then especially if you're not seeing the results and you thought you were going all in on it, that's like the biggest down you can have because you're like, I just went hard for 2 weeks and now I'm off and now I got to restart. And
Mm,
like if you get sick or something stupid like that happens and you're out for a week, you just get back on it and just go
hmm.
again. Try to find that consistent base and just keep working on that. But it's hard. It's definitely
Yeah.
hard.
Well, Danielle can attest to the fact that you like food, so that's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So what I'm gonna end with is you must have a cute little puppy going back here.
Yeah, sorry, hold on. Let me just get her
No,
out of
let's say hey. Let's say
here.
hey.
Hey, Blue, say hi. Hey.
Oh
There
my
she is.
gosh.
She got
What's his
spooked. She
name?
thought
Oh,
someone was
her.
at the door.
What's her name?
Blue.
Oh, she is so cute.
Yeah, she's crazy. I had her pretty good for the last half hour, and now she's starting to act
She's
up.
like, all right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I want to end with is first question. This is always the hardest for me, but what is your favorite food?
Favorite food is that's hard for me because there's so many, but
Or
I
like
am
at
a
the
huge
moment, like what's your go-to right now?
I am like the biggest French fry guy in the world. Like if you ask anybody, I love potatoes. Like
Yeah,
I mean, I try not to have the fried French fries or whatever,
yeah.
but if there's like a one thing in front of me that I can never deny, it's usually French fries. So that
Oh
kills
my
me.
God.
And any regular potato, I love roasted potatoes, anything like that. I could just eat a pile of them and it kills me.
Are
So
you
that's tough.
Irish at all or?
I'm not. I'm Italian, so it's
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
Yeah, so I mean, people always ask me, "Oh, is it pasta?" Sometimes it's pizza, but usually it's the potatoes that kill me. It's
Yeah.
something
That's
about
so
them.
funny. No,
Yeah.
I am obsessed with potatoes. It like just if you just gave me like a baked potato with some salt, I would be
Oh my God.
honestly set. Like that's I
Yeah.
yeah. And apparently you eat donuts too. Some people are
I
calling you out.
do. I know
Uh,
people call me out all the time. There you go, son of a gun. That's one of my
hashtag
my
balance.
hashtags.
Hashtag
Yes,
balance.
balance, Sonia, balance. So it's tough.
So I want people to know, where they can find you and you obviously do one-on-one personal training, but it sounds like you would, be willing to help people kind of direct them of places they could go for maybe an online program that's
Yeah.
reputable. So I guess where can people find you? What's the best place to follow you? And
Best place, just reach out for me on Instagram if you want to follow or whatever. Just message me, and I'm usually pretty good. I'll get back to you in no time, and I can help you out. I can put you in the right direction if you have any questions. Just ask me. I'm usually pretty good at answering on there, so just go for it. Yeah. And same for you though. People are gonna ask me now. They're gonna say, "Oh, who did you do this with? Who can I help?" So same thing. What's the best way to reach you for nutrition advice?
yeah, so my Instagram people typically will go through there, but you can go to nutritionrewired.com and I do a free discovery call with everybody. So it's just a quick 15-minute call where people can tell me what their goals are and we can see if we'd be a good fit working together based on the types of things that I work on.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, I think it's a winning combination, right? The nutrition and the fitness side of things. And
Yeah.
it sounds like hopefully people will enjoy this video and we'll get some more questions. We can do more of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
I do one-on-one virtual coaching as well. So
Nice.
I'm here in Boston with a private practice, but I see clients all over the country. Very jealous of my
Great.
clients that live out in California
Oh,
when
I'm
it's
sure.
sunny. We're over here freezing.
I know,
So,
in the cold. Yeah, I know.
all right.
But yeah, that's great. So I'll definitely keep your name out there too for plenty of my people who are always asking me for nutrition advice. They always want to know, so I'll throw your
Yeah.
name out there all the time. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, it was
Yeah.
so great
No,
talking with you,
this was
John,
awesome.
and
Yeah.
look forward to keeping in touch. It's
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely keep doing these. And if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us.
Yeah. Reach out. Hopefully, we'll build a good questions for next time, and then we can talk
Yeah,
about a few more good topics. Yeah. All
yeah,
right.
this was so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was
All
great.
right,
Yeah.
bye
All right. See
everybody.
ya. Bye, guys.